Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're ranking the top 24 running backs and wide receivers and going over why you need to play Tyjae Spears over Derrick Henry, which may sound crazy, but my Week 13 start of the week was Devon Achane and Christian Watson. So let's dive right into things and start off with our Tier 1 running back, Christian McCaffrey, against the Seattle Seahawks. Now, it doesn't really matter who CMC is going up against. He's always going to be that Tier 1 guy and RB1 overall for the week. He has just been dominating fantasy football. If we could have a redraft right now, he would probably be the 101 overall. He's been crushing it. He's vintage CMC on this high-powered 49ers offense. Dropping down a whole tier, we have Alvin Kamara at 2 against the Carolina Panthers. Now, despite missing 4 games, Kamara has just been dominant this year. He has been crushing it. He's a PPR machine getting all these checkdowns. It does concern me a little bit that they have Jameis Winston in here who likes to air the ball out and not check the ball down quite as much. But the Panthers have been awful this year. The Saints aren't a great team, but they should easily beat up on the Panthers, which will allow Kamara not only to improve his rushing workload, but get those passes near the line of scrimmage as well. Then we're going to 3 Travis Etienne against the Browns. Now, Etienne hasn't been great, but the Jaguars should be in a close game with the Browns. Trevor Lawrence probably isn't going to play this week, but the Browns are starting Joe Flacco. So it's really, Etienne could be screwed by that Trevor Lawrence injury, but in reality, both teams are pretty screwed this week. They're going to have to lean on the run more now that they can't really throw the ball as much. So, loving Etienne. I assume CJ Beathard is going to look to Etienne early and often. Then we're going to Jahmyr Gibbs, who, honestly, a disappointing week. But he's going against the Bears. The Bears' defense is just god-awful. They make every running back look great. I remember when Rashad White played against the Bears, they made him look like an elite pass-catching back before he was really even doing anything. So, Jahmyr Gibbs, who is miles better than Rashad White, in my opinion, should absolutely thrive against the Bears and get a ton of work as the Lions, they got to blow out the Bears, right? Then we're going Devon Achane at 5. Now, I had him inside the top 24 last week when the consensus was don't start Devon Achane. I didn't know why. I really am not a huge Devon Achane fan, but he's just been so good this year. Anytime he touches the ball, it has the explosiveness to go to the house. Going up to the Titans, they are 13.5-point favorites, which is why you got to start Achane. They're going to get so many rushing opportunities this game as the game will be over before it starts. Then we got Bijan Robinson going up against the Buccaneers. Arthur Smith is still one of the worst coaches in the NFL, but Bijan Robinson has just produced when he's got the opportunity. So we're just going to pray Arthur Smith, isn't in a bad mood and wants to screw all fantasy owners. Hopefully gives the ball to Bijan. More than likely or not, he hopefully will, at least a decent amount. And the talent from Bijan will allow him to shine through. Now, Kyren Williams has been crushing it this year. My best waiver wire pickup by far. I get it. He's going up against the Baltimore Ravens, but he is a great pass catcher. And even though the Rams should be down in this game, Kyren Williams should benefit from them throwing the ball a lot and getting those PPR points. Again, he's been so good. Honestly, you can make the argument that after this game, he could be a top 2 to 3 running back because of his rest of season schedule. He's a great player. You saw the upside he had in his first game back, and we're having to enter this tier just because of the matchup. Then we're going down to tier 3. We have Zach Moss against the Bengals. Zach Moss has not really been what he promised to be last week, but we're still trusting him. He's been a top 3 running back with no Jonathan Taylor. Pretty good matchup against Cincinnati Bengals. I know they looked amazing last week, but I'm not expecting the same type of performance every single week out of Jake Browning. Then we're going over to Austin Eckler against the Denver Broncos, and I know Eckler has been god-awful recently. Has just scored over 10 points in the last 3 games, but the Chargers should win this game. The Broncos have allowed the most fantasy points to running backs, and Austin Eckler is still a very good pass catcher. He didn't automatically turn to dust. At least I'm hoping not. We're still ranking him as an RB1 this week. This is his last chance. If he does not produce, we can say he's an RB2 for the rest of the season. But if not, Eckler comes back and bounces back. He deserves to be in that conversation for low-end RB1. Then we're going to Rashad White, averaging 15 points a game. Rashad White was one of my most drafted players on Underdog. And after a slow start to the season, he's really coming on, averaging about 15 points per game. Going up against the Falcons should be a close game. I expect him to do what he does, and that's get involved as a pass catcher, even though he's not the most efficient back. Then we're going 11 to Dave Montgomery. Could see the argument for him to be higher than this. However, he is very touchdown dependent. Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing against the Bears because I expect the Lions to score a decent amount of touchdowns. It's just the fact that on a weekly basis, he doesn't have the same upside where we're saying, oh, yeah, we know he's going to get X amount of targets and be incredibly efficient. He is getting those touchdowns, which are so hard to project out week over week. However, it still means he's at RB1. Then we're going to Tony Pollard against the Eagles. Tony Pollard has had a pretty good past few games after being declared, a bust. But he's going up against the Eagles. I know the Eagles have a really good defense. But that said, I'm targeting these players in high-scoring games. Should be a shootout. The Cowboys have been red hot. The Eagles, they haven't been as good recently. Hurts like kind of banged up. So it should be a high-scoring game. And I think the Eagles could actually pull off the win in this one, which would definitely help Pollard right in the hot hand. As you see the running backs behind him, there are just so many questions. Drop down to tier 4, we have Saquon Barkley going up against the Packers. Saquon Barkley is really the only weapon the Giants have. I mean, yeah, you have these guys coming in, Jalen Hyatt, that are, popping. But in reality, Saquon Barkley is that whole offense. He has the workload. He's a bell cow. He's talented. We have to put him here, even though he hasn't been as good as we'd like. Josh Jacobs does not look good. And honestly, I could see dropping him down to the end of this tier. But at the end of the day, it's still Josh Jacobs. I think this Raiders offense, does continue to get better. It seems like this coaching regime has allowed them to improve week by week. Then we're going to Raheem Mostert against the Titans. Obviously, not as good when Devon Achane is taking all these touches. But again, like I said, they are 13.5-point favorites. They should be able to run the ball a ton. Then we're going to Isaiah Pacheco. He's seen that passing increase, but it really hasn't been as substantial as I initially thought. They're going against the Buffalo Bills, though. Should be a high-scoring game, even though the Chiefs have struggled as of late. I'm betting on the running back in this high-powered offense. Then we're going to tier 5. DeAndre Swift against the Dallas Cowboys. Good pass catcher, high-scoring matchup. Breece Hall against the Texans. The Texans honestly should struggle a little bit. Tank those out. We'll see how they respond. And Breece Hall is just talented. He didn't really look too bad with Zach Wilson in. Zach Wilson's supposed to play. I don't know what is going on with him saying that he doesn't want to become the starting quarterback so he doesn't get injured. I mean, I don't know what world Zach Wilson is living in where he thinks he has a guaranteed job next year. And I actually really like Zach Wilson. But he has not been good this year. He has been bad. He has been very bad. He's shown signs of improvement a few times. But more often than not, these games have ended in him just having a terrible game. 19, James Cook, been pretty good as of late. He's getting a lot of the pass catching work, which we love to see. Even though Josh Allen is known for being a gunslinger, throwing the ball down the field, he's still able to provide for James Cook. And here, we'll kind of do a little pause. And this is what you came here for. I'm talking about Tyjae Spears versus Derrick Henry. And I have a whole reason why I'm starting Tyjae Spears against Derrick Henry. So on the surface, you guys are going to be like, start your studs, don't overcomplicate it. Now, yes, I am one for saying that as well. I think that you should start your studs, but has Derrick Henry really been a stud this year? We're looking at Derrick Henry more of what he's done in the past than this year. If I were to say, oh, yeah, let's get cute and bench, I don't know, Devon Achane or Bijan Robinson for Tyjae Spears because of the matchup. Now, that's getting cute. That's not starting your studs. But Derrick Henry really hasn't been that good this year. And in reality, it's just such a constant theme that the reasonings are just so out there that we have to not overlook them. So, obviously, like I talked about, the Titans are 13.5-point underdogs against the Dolphins. And for one, Derrick Henry's coming off a concussion last week. I know he cleared the protocol, and he's probably going to play. But what incentive do they have if he doesn't feel 100% this game? I mean, they're 4-8. They have no chance of contending. Henry's the best player, and they're not just going to screw him over by making him play through an injury. If he even stubs his toe this game, wouldn't be surprised if they take him out, which would be massive for Tyjae Spears. Last week, Tyjae Spears was very good. He had 12.8 points with 16 carries, 75 rushing yards, 6 targets, and 4 receptions. And keep in mind, Derrick Henry played about half the game, so Spears still had a fair share to do exactly what he needed. The Ravens have been pretty good against running backs, allowing the 8th fewest running back points, 18.27 points per game, which is why we're still having Henry and Spears down here as the RB21 and RB20. But the most important reason why Spears should be ahead of Henry is he's going to outsnap him. Plain and simple, it's going to happen fast. It's going to happen. as we've seen that Spears has become the passing back this year, drawing 46 targets for 33 catches this year. And dating back to week 6, in every game the Titans have lost but one, week 11, which was only about 5 more snaps, Spears played more snaps than Henry. We've seen the same trend 3 out of 4 times, and I really like those odds. I think after we've seen something happen so many times, we kind of have to, accept it and know what's going to happen. Spears is a good player, and Derrick Henry is not going to be out there very much in this game because of the injury and because of the game script. Now, dropping down to tier 6, we have Joe Mixon against the Colts, Javonte Williams against the Chargers, Madison against the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, these are all pretty much whatever. Mixon, hopefully, he's been good. The Bengals offense did look a lot better, so I think we have to put him here. But in reality, it's just like, who are you putting above these guys? Williams is fairly talented, decent offense. Madison should have the workload. That's all I really have to say about these 2 players. Let's head over to the wide receiver rankings. At 1, we have Tyjae, and he is not alone this week. He's paired with CeeDee Lamb at 2, and that's because we talked about it before. The Dolphins should blow the Titans out of the water, and that's going to result in the Dolphins not having to throw the ball too much in the second half and just not enough passing volume where I think we can predict Tyreek Hill is going to be that guy in a tier of his own. Obviously, still the wide receiver 1, probably the best player in football right now. So explosive, can make anything happen on any play. But CeeDee Lamb has been tearing it up recently. He's been phenomenal. Let's give him his flowers. He's going up against the Eagles. Should be a very high-scoring game. And I think the Cowboys have a real shot to win this as well. Dak has been on fire. Let's respect CeeDee Lamb and put him in tier 1. Dropping down to tier 2, we have Keenan Allen, A.J. Brown, Stephon Diggs, Amon-Ra, and Jefferson. Now, Allen, we're just betting on how good he's been this year, having his best season, averaging 22 points per game at age 31. Elite quarterback in Justin Herbert. Decent game script. Should be a close game. Back and forth. It's a must-win for both teams. Then we got A.J. Brown again. A.J. Brown's been amazing this year, averaging around 20 points per game. High-scoring game. We're betting on that. And Stephon Diggs, even though the Bills and Chiefs have both been disappointing, Diggs hasn't been the same guy that's putting up these wide receiver 1 overall type weeks as of, years past. But I think this could be a reemergence for both teams where we get into a shootout. And obviously we want Stephon Diggs in that game. Amon-Ra, just an elite receiver going up against the Bears. Bad secondary, pretty good matchup. Then we have Justin Jefferson here against the Raiders. Now, the former 101 this year is now coming back off an injury. But I think that he's had so much time to call off an injury that I'm not too concerned. It's against the Raiders. I really think that this should be a pretty easy matchup. Again, if he's, the Jefferson he once was, he comes all the way back up to wide receiver 2 to 3. So having him at 7 is a fair price point. I just can't have him behind any of these guys. Then we're going to tier 3, Michael Pittman, who had 16 targets. He's producing as a wide receiver 1 this year, something we never really thought would happen. Decent matchup, but respect Pittman, respect the target share. Got to put him there. Then Ayuk against the Seahawks has been fairly consistent recently. Again, the only reason he's not higher is because, we're a little worried about what kind of volatility he's going to have playing with all these other elite receiving options. Jamar Chase, elite receiver. Browning looked a lot better last week. Colts, decent matchup. Love Chase. It really feels weird to have him ranked this low, but he's not playing Joe Burrow. He hasn't been that, wide receiver 1 overall type player that we thought he was going to possibly be, or even wide receiver 2. He was ahead of Tyreek Hill coming into the year. But then we have Mike Evans against the Falcons. It just seems like the Buccaneers are only throwing the ball to Mike Evans. Should be a close game again. So-so matchup. Mike Evans has been dominant. We got to stop fading Mike Evans. He just hit his another 1,000 receiving yard season. Then we got Nico Collins, who gets a massive bump up from that Tank Dell injury. He's going to be the clear alpha. We're a little concerned about the target share. No need to be recently, but with Tank Dell gone, they really only have Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz as options. And C.J. Stroud is playing at an MVP level. He's probably a top 10 quarterback in football right now. We got Nico Collins producing, and we got an elite quarterback. What else do you really need? And against the Jets, too, please don't be too concerned about Sauce Gardner. I was checking PFF's matchup analyzer, wide receiver / cornerbacks, and he has an average matchup, which obviously means that Sauce isn't going to be on the whole game. This isn't the old NFL in the 90s where we got one-on-one matchups all game long. People are moving around. Defenses are shifting. Dropping down to tier 4, we got Puka against the Ravens. Going to be super interesting to see what he does, but He's had a very good game last week, an explosive play, which is nice to see because typically he doesn't break off these big plays. It's just more of that, short catch guy. Then we got DJ Moore against the Detroit Lions. It's not a great matchup for him, as even though the Bears should be behind, Fields can throw the ball. We don't love Fields, even as a Bears fan. Then we got Chris Olave against the Panthers. Olave did get taken out of the game last week, but hopefully he should be 100%. Again, got him on this injury, but he is really stepping up, and especially with James at quarterback, throwing those deep balls. Give me Chris Olave this week. Then we have a bunch of guys that are ranked similarly for me. Devonta Smith, DK Metcalf, Cooper Kupp, Jalen Waddle, and Deebo Samuel. We'll start with Smith. Wide receiver 2 in a high-scoring game. Love the talent there. Got to start him. DK Metcalf is coming off a massive game, and this honestly should be a pretty good game environment. The 49ers are a great offense. The Seahawks are going to need to keep up and throw the ball, so look for DK Metcalf to get involved. Cooper Kupp, I don't know why we're fading Cooper Kupp all of a sudden when I know he's been bad. I don't know why we're fading him now after he just had an 8-target game, scoring 15 points. Like, I was fading him, a few weeks ago, but now it kind of seems like he's starting to corner. We're ranking him here because of what he's done, and I really can't rank Jalen Waddle ahead of him. He's a good player, but not a good matchup, and hasn't really produced this year. Deebo Samuel's been very good this year, but again, he's been so inconsistent that we can't rank him as high as we would like. Then we'll drop down to tier 5. Devontae Adams has been mid, averaging around 14, 15 points a game recently. I mean, we'll see what the game script brings, and I don't think the Raiders are going to get blown out, but I do expect a fair amount of passing volume. DeAndre Hopkins, Will Levis is going to have to air the ball out when the Titans are getting blown out by the Dolphins immediately. Should be a very pass-happy game, and, that's really the only guy that you can trust in this offense, and that's who they're only going to. Then we have Jaden Reed at 23, and in light of the Christian Watson injury, prayers up for Christian Watson. Hopefully he should be back in a few weeks, is the reports I read. But until then, Jaden Reed, before last week, was having a 19-point game, a 15-point game, a 15-point game. He was a very good rookie. He's been playing well for most of the year, and Jordan Love is getting hot. So I feel like we have to start him. He's that clear wide receiver 1 now. Christian Watson's better than him, but now Reed goes into getting those Christian Watson targets, or we would assume. Then we'll cap things off with Courtland Sutton. Honestly, a low-end wide receiver 2 at this point. Very good wide receiver this year. Good at going up and getting those contested catches. And even though this doesn't always translate to fantasy, never really loved Sutton. He has 9 touchdowns this year. Should be a close game, and I expect the Broncos to really, really have to throw the ball this game since this is a must-win game for them. And if they get behind, they're not just going to be complacent and run the clock out, just feeding Javonte Williams. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you learned something, please drop me a subscribe button, drop a like, and comment. We're also partnering with Underdog Fantasy. More details on that later. But really all you need to know right now is if you want a 100% deposit match for a first-time user, say you deposit $10, you get $20 total, $10 in bonus cash, and you'll also get a free pick'em. So if you use code FSN, that's code FSN. I'll put more details in the description, and I will get those out to you ASAP in future videos. But again, just what we have right now. We just signed a deal with them this week. Super excited about the future of the channel. Gonna be doing a ton of stuff this offseason. But again, yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.